This game is horrible. Why is this praised?
It was ahead of its time and still is. Shortly after this game was announced, I read an interview in some gaming magazine about it. It was with the two brothers who were designing it. They talked about how you would have to manage your backpack, how you could cram it full of loot, but if you crammed it too full, things might fall out. They talked about how you'd be able to plant trees and they'd grow as you progressed in the game. They talked about how you could own a business and sabotage your competitors by smashing as good shipments. I was blown away and became obsessed. I practically lived on the Game FAQ's Fable forum after that. I constantly checked for news, couldn't wait to hear the official release date. It was gonna be the greatest game ever made, I just knew it. I pre-ordered it as soon as freaking possible. Then when it finally released, well, suffice it to say I have not pre-ordered a single game since .L, and suspect I never will again. Did you ever finish it? Its graphics, gameplay and story are super boring. Thank God I'm playing it on Crap Pass, not sure if I can stomach it. Yes, I did finish it. I felt obligated for obvious reasons. It's not a bad game. It's SOSO. But SOSO was a colossal disappointment to me after how much I had hyped it up in my mind. It did very little in the way of innovation, and what innovations it did contain were not very fun or interesting. Had the exact same experience, except they started releasing some red flag statements before it came out. Like they said if you were evil a boulder might fall on your house and kill your family, or that it might have multiplayer but the other player would be some will-o-wisp thing. All the news coming before the actual release was so awful and confusing that the game was already dead to me before it came out. Ended up liking it for what it was, but that whole experience led me to becoming the bitter, cynical man I am today. Now I just have fun watching the innocent and ignorant get hyped and then crushed over shit like No Man's Sky or Cyberpunk, not knowing that game devs will literally tell you any lie to sell a game. Didn't know about any of this poop. It's one of my favorite games till this day. God, I hate it when what the devs want to do ends up being a far cry from what the game ends up being. I respect Fable for annoying me enough. As a kid I discovered Morrowind via console. Fable 1 and 2 are good video games. 3 is an abomination that killed the series, it was so bad. 3, at that point, was the most disappointed I had ever been at a video game. Everything is broken, meaning you cannot fuck up character building. Spells are actually different and interesting, and all being different flavors of fuck up everything. Because everything is capable of wrecking face, you can build your character however you want, and early game building your character around the theme and choosing spells that complement that theme is fun. The game altogether has plenty of fun shit to find and collect. Great soundtrack, good aesthetic, the graphics are ugly but the style is pleasant, and lots of small things like NPCs lines, emotes, kicking heads around, makes the world feel comfy. Short and doesn't overstay its welcome. Fable or not, people need to learn that having expectations for anything is mentally challenged and is of zero benefit. Enjoy what games are already out instead of fixating on something that does not yet exist. When the game comes out, you can only be pleasantly surprised where expectations are either disappointed or met without contributing anything for having had them. I simply see no upside to getting hyped about anything when you can be just as happy, if not more, ignoring a game until it comes out and either enjoying it, or it being bad but having no expectations to be let down. In terms of what it actually is versus what, not mentally challenged, people expected, was a huge letdown for me. So you're saying only the challenged didn't believe what they were hyping it up to be? Either way, hype is for the mentally challenged. Cool ideas, but the combat is crap. Absolutely brainless garbage kitty poop. It was just a crap version of Morrowind, which was released first and not on Xbox, but not overhyped or oversimplified for normies. It really isn't anything like Morrowind. You're comparing two pretty distinct games trying to do different stuff. They're just both WRPGs. No, at the time these were the only two types of those open-world RPGs for console, and Fable sucked then and sucks now. It was the ultimate dumbed-down consumer easy mode normie open-world RPG with overpromised, under-delivered features. The actual combat and difficulty of both Fable and Morrowind are both brain-dead, so I'm not sure why you're bothering to speak as if that is the only metric to measure the quality of the gameplay. If I didn't want to play a dumbed-down easy-mode normie open-world RPG, I certainly wouldn't play Morrowind. I appreciate the humor of overpromised under-delivered features. Though since we all have the context of those pre-2000s Todd Howard posts hyping up Elder Scrolls, You Can Marry Your Sister. 2004 was 19 years ago. Because back then children played it, who had no idea about the lies Peter Molyneux came up with. And it's a comfy, mediocre RPG, which is easy and fun to play through. Better than the 2 sequels, which simplified the combat mechanics and made it completely boring. 606087438. Peter Molyneux had nothing to do with the success of these games. It's people you never heard of, who actually worked on the game itself, doing their job in the background. The more freedom and agency Peter Molyneux is given with his games, the more mentally challenged, unfinished and bad the product gets. See Godus, which is worse than Populous, despite that game already being multiple decades old at his point and Peter Molyneux having full creative freedom.